Good morning. It's a Tuesday in the middle of January, 2025, and I am reading this biography of Emerson, The Mind on Fire. And I think for the next few days, I've highlighted a few points that are resonant, and I'm going to share those. And today I'm talking about the inner world, Emerson's idea of the inner world. And at the same time, then I'm going to read from my own collection of essays, which you can acquire from the link in the show notes, um, whatever the comments are. And I'm going to read I'm going to read my paragraph or two on the poetic ooze, this halo. Yesterday, reading the Robert Frost poem about the road, right? The road not taken, the road less taken. And the idea then that we are carving out a path, but the paths that we don't take are to some extent also carried along with us. And I used the term chemtrails, poetic chemtrails, which I realized is what I used in this book. I wrote this book 10 years ago. But these ideas that we are poetry producing machines that sort of flow around us as this halo, this effervescent halo of ooze. And when I say poetry, it's my work laptop because I'm skiving off work for 20 minutes to record this. When I say poetry, I'm using it in the most broad sense to include verse, but also essays, also music, art, aesthetics, right? The aesthetic object, this object that means something. And the weight of the aesthetic object, whether it's the music or the sculpture or the painting or the poem, is an interface between this inner world and the outer physical world, right? Also, the inner world of me, sort of small mind in my head, and the universal world. So, this is from chapter 37 in the biography. This is a wonderful book. It's one of those biographies that is almost as inspiring as the content, right? Emerson's essays are becoming increasingly important to me as a reader and as a thinker. And this biography is really helping put them in the context. It's exactly what a biography should do, I think. This is a quote from Emerson's journals. Right? So not the essays, but the journals. To believe your own thought, that is genius, he wrote. All powerful action is by bringing the forces of nature to bear upon our objects. The artifact. And bringing these forces to bear is to kind of give it a valence of meaning, the meaningfulness of an object. My friend Lowry used to use the word meaningfulness. It's a quality of an object or a location that is imparted by our engagement with that object. And then he says, the believer, the belief in the invisible world really should be understood as belief in the inner world. So then the believer, the interactor with the invisible, with the inner world, is conscious of an inward nature which is the source of more important and comprehensive ideas than any which the external senses suggest. And they follow the decisions of these ideas as the inspiring voice of God. This source of material, maybe it's Socrates' daemon, inspiration. What is the source of thought? We'll come back to this in the next couple of days because I don't want to get off too far on on too much of a tangent. But what is the source of any of our thoughts? Even the thoughts that we privilege here as creative, inspired thoughts, but also thoughts that are thoughts of hunger, thoughts of being full, satiation. Spoken to someone who just ate breakfast, right? Hunger and satiation. Anxiety about the future. Where do these thoughts come from? I think they come from a source. I think there is a source of material that is interpenetrated with the sensations and thoughts that arise because I'm physically embodied. And that for the most part, the ideas that come from this stream, we pull in all the time because we're embedded with it. It's not like there's a pool and I'm going to jump in the pool. Like we are equal parts thoughts and inspiration that come from the fact that I have this body, this immediate manifestation, this life, and then the poetic ooze, the comprehensive ideas, the inner world. Emerson, in his essays, and Richardson, the author of this, talks about this and helps make it very clear. When Emerson says self-reliance, he's not meaning nonconformity. There's an element of nonconformity because, as a result, but it's not the. Right? What he means is find that. Right? There's an element of that in the Frost poem as well. Because I still don't, as I think about that poem, the point that made the decision is unclear to me. There's a reference to the one path looking a little bit different, but then at the end they say, well, really they were both the same in that moment, but having made the decision. So the self-reliance is, I think, a confidence and a faith in this inner voice. The inspiring voice of God, that actually isn't Emerson's language. That's from George Ripley that Emerson is quoting in his journal, because I don't think at this point Emerson would use God so emphatically. Not that I'm not saying Emerson didn't believe in a God, but I think this force of nature is far more important to him than a dogmatic theological definition. So what did I write? Well, I have a chapter called Poetic Ooze, and I talk about stepping outside of time and some psychogeography where I talk about an experience by the ocean. But then I come in. I say, imagine this. Imagine this. You have 4 minutes left to live. Definitely 4, but only 4. 4 minutes. The length of an average song on the radio. What is on your mind right now? What does your mind look like? What is it looking at? Is it looking at fracturing pictures of the surface waves connected down to the ocean? Just as an aside, that's the image that I had written on the previous page. The tidal rush of memory, desire, narrative, regret, hope. Everything becomes a concrete halo, not concrete like a brutalist structure, nothing that will squash you down beneath the waves, but concrete like words to a song you had given up remembering. Concrete like a mandala drawn by monks tapping colored sand from silver canisters. Then I talk about Sylvia Plath. Sylvia Plath and Ted Hughes are poets that figure prominently in this. If I skip ahead, an immense faith permeates my remembering of those poems. They felt like an encounter with an object, with a landscape of feelingfulness. This illumination of the present is shocking and intimate. A poet will see between and around the space to fill in the stories otherwise implied, and what informs everything with that special light is not cruelty or indifference. It is magic, elven, fey, and unsettling, casting a glow on all objects to reflect. I've called this the halo because I am no poet. The ooze, the mind substance of the ooze. I'm going to keep reading this for a bit. I'm going to call this mind substance ooze for now. It's O-O-Z-E. Until or unless something better emerges. Nothing better has emerged. This ooze is a liminal glow surrounding each of us, populated with poetry. Best experienced with the 4-minute experiment, where you imagine that you will die before the end of the next radio song. The body, with all its metabolic processes, sustains each individual node of ooze, bubbling along our individual interactions. Eating, sleeping, fucking, shitting, walking, and then walking more are wobbling variations on the tides and times of our oozy substance. Where this glowing ooze touches something, it will fill in the gaps and shapes. The world around is a set of prompts waiting for thoughts and stories that run repeating in an internal muttering. We rub out meaning with the frictions created by this etheric ooze. It's a good place to stop for today. Again, like, subscribe, share this, and comment, ask questions, criticize. If you think what I'm saying is bizarrely meaningless, let me know. And I will try to respond in a way that maybe won't change your mind, but will give me something to talk about. So, cheers.